Hey people. Today I'm going to be doing another video that's separate from my, my home laboratory, and I'm going to be doing something that I've wanted to do for a while, which is the strange rehydration of these apples. Now this is part of a number of dehydrated apples that my grandmother Ram actually made for me, and they're quite good. You can put them in your school lunches if you want. But I've always wondered, you know, these are just apples minus the water, right? I've seen her make them. So what if we put the water back in? And what if it wasn't water? So that's what I'll be exploring today. I'll be doing a number of household liquids that are actually edible, not, you know, gasoline this time. And then doing a taste test at the very end. And hopefully my palate remains intact after I undergo. So let's get to it. So here are the bag of apples. This is one of many. I have multiple. In nature, very leathery, very delicious, but sometimes that's just not what you want, right? So let's see what we can do to convert some of these, make it a bit interesting. So first what I'll do is use my trusty hot plate with my 400 ml beaker, and I'll just load a couple of apple pieces in here and add a stir bar just for consistency's sake. And what we'll do is we'll add enough water to cover the apples sufficiently. And we'll get stirring and heating going. What I'm going to be doing is I'll probably be heating it to just about boiling temperature, and then letting it cool and sit for some time. Already a couple seconds in, you can notice that the apples have, I think, become a bit more engorged, but they're going to have to get a lot bigger than that, I think. We haven't quite hit boiling temperature yet, but these are definitely becoming a little puffier than when they started. Notice the comparison to one that's dry here. The thickness is actually kind of the same, but just to me looks a bit more well-rounded, which is interesting. Okay, so now that we've gone to boiling and back, now I'll put these apples on this state-of-the-art dinner plate to cool and to compare with our future tests. Notice that these are like, this has the same consistency as just like an apple slice now. And I imagine when I taste it, it'll probably taste remarkably similar to just a regular old apple slice. So let's put our now empty beaker back on, load it with a couple of more pieces of apple. 3 should do. And this time around, we'll try rehydrating it with the Doc himself, Dr. Pepper. And we'll see how that performs. Okay, so immediately what I noticed is it bubbled quite a bit when I first added Dr. Pepper in, and I think it probably will continue to do so. Likely what that's doing is the increased heat is forcing all of that carbonation out of the liquid way faster than it would have at room temperature. It's been a solid 3 minutes or so, and I don't see too many changes, either in color or appearance of the apples, but obviously we're going to try to hit boiling before we make any real conclusions about this. So we're about 10 minutes at this point. The apples have become a little bit too puffy to move around so much, and so I think I'm going to take them out here. the Pepsi or the Dr. Pepper has been mildly boiling, but nothing too crazy. I think that's pretty sufficient. These are looking pretty floppy. So taking them out of the respectful container, they actually look a bit darker to me. Maybe they will lighten up as they dry, but I don't know, there's something about these compared to our water-based apples that just seem a bit more tan. Maybe it looks better like this. Pretty weird. That's pretty weird. And if you want to ever smell Dr. Pepper and apple, then this solution is it achieves that. I'm definitely not gonna be drinking this though, because that feels kind of weird drinking from a beaker personally. Okay, beaker back on. The 3 apples. Now, this time, maybe something a bit out there. I'll be putting this pineapple IPA in with the apples, and I'll be praying that this drink, which I really don't like really IPAs, but maybe it'll make the apples taste something new. So we'll pour our beer. That's what I couldn't finish out of the can because I had such a difficult time with it. So we'll start stirring and turn that heat up. Okay, so already it's like really foamy around here. I think that's just characteristic of a beer, but I don't think beers really are designed to be heated too much, so it'll be interesting to see how it progresses as the temperature increases. After about a minute, the beer solution has kind of cleared up. Now it just kind of looks like a beer that you might pour on tap at a bar. So, continuing to see how it progresses. At this point, about 3 minutes in, the only foam that's left is kind of been trapped in the center of the apple. I don't know if that's relevant or not, but I don't really drink beers that much. I'm more of a wine guy personally. But maybe my beer drinkers out there will have more knowledge about what's going on than I do. So the foam on the beer is back. I think that's a pretty good indicator that boiling has really started, and so now I think it's just the right time to take these out. They've really stopped stirring around just because, again, they're just bulky in size, and so it's time we switch it out. Okay, so to recount, we have our water and our Dr. Pepper, and to put alongside that, we now have our IPA, or pineapple IPA infused apples to add to the collection with foam on top, just like a real IPA. Beaker is cleaned and put back in its original position. Now I'll put that 3 more apple slices in there. And this time we'll be using red wine and seeing what kind of effects we can get with that. This is more my speed besides the beer. Turn up the stirring, turn up the heat, and watch it go. About 2 minutes in, and I don't yet notice any change, but the apple slices are definitely turning into more of like a reddish color, which is pretty cool. So it's been about 10 minutes or so. Some of the ethanol is definitely boiling off at this point, but I think this is probably as good as it's going to get, and it is a little bit floppy, but it's definitely not as malleable as the water-based or the more water-based solutions. So we're gonna call this one here and move on to the next. All right, so let's do our growing circle of apples. We'll add our most recent ones, which are definitely a lot more reddish in color, as what I might expect than the other ones. And the remaining wine is, looks like wine with some apple chunks floating in it. So definitely not going to drink this, but I'm tempted. Clean the beaker, back on the hot plate. We'll add some more apples. There we go, just 3. And this time we'll be doing milk, but instead of dairy, we'll be switching to almond milk. I don't know why milk has become a staple in my videos, but unfortunately this is like its 3rd appearance, which is a lot, I think. That's gross. I don't know how old this coconut milk is. It's not really mine, so I don't know how to tell. But let's get the heat on and the stirring. And let it ride. Okay, so we're about 5 minutes in. There's some milk residue building up on the edges, but as far as our apples are concerned, then they are becoming a bit more floppy, but I think it could use a little bit more time, personally. It's looking, I don't know, it's looking pretty gross. But their color hasn't really changed to like something that's more white. And I don't know if I really expected that to happen either. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes or so, and the milk is starting to, I can see it's becoming frothy at the top, hence I believe it's starting to boil a bit. Our apples on the inside haven't changed too much in color. When they were floating at the top, there was kind of a residue on them. I'm not sure if it's like the milk that's drying, but I think it's time to remove them at this point. These will make a fine addition to my collection. And you know what? They actually do look a bit wider than the rest of the apples, and so I don't think that's disappointing. That's great. Maybe it's hard to see, but I think it's at least a little bit wider than our starting material with just the water. Cool. It definitely like smells like coconut, and the milk that's left over is separating into layers, which is kind of gross. There's like, I don't know, there's like particulates that have come out of solution. So I don't know if the milk is bad or it's just breaking down with high heat. Next round, empty beaker. We'll load our 3 apples in there. Our next liquid will be Kikkoman's soy sauce. This is probably going to be a pretty salty outcome, but we have to do it for science. Oof. I don't really like soy sauce personally, so I'm not much looking forward to this one. This is probably the most soy sauce I've used in several months. Ugh. Let's get the stirring going, and let's turn that heat up. Okay, we're about 2 minutes in. In terms of consistency, they haven't really changed too much. I will say in terms of color, they have begun to develop a little bit of a tan, which is kind of interesting. The ambient air also kind of smells like soy sauce at this point, but I will persist for the sake of science. Okay, we are about 15 minutes into this process, and it definitely smells like it's almost like cooking, kind of a very soy saucy type smell. And the color is quite pronounced in these, as expected. And I would say that they're probably sufficiently floppy, I think. They've absorbed enough water to move on to the next phase. And the final piece to our puzzle, we'll add our apples, which look like I don't know, vegan teriyaki chicken. That's kind of gross, but it's true. That's what it kind of smells like to me. It's almost darker than our wine based apples, so that's a bit weird. So now I think the circle is complete. I think it's ready for me to try some of these once this soy sauce kind of cools down, and we'll see the we'll reap the rewards of all of our efforts today. So, short and sweet video. These are all my apples here. We'll start with the normal one with just water. This is really the only one I actually wanted to try. The rest are just auxiliary and for your entertainment only. But for the sake of science, I'll try them all. But kind of just tastes like a very thin slice of apple that's maybe a bit more sad, but it definitely has the same consistency and like crunch of like an apple. So I'm pretty pleased with that one. It's a reasonable snack. It's kind of weird. This is kind of like a soggy apple kind of texture to it. Next, I'll be doing Dr. Pepper. Oh gosh. Oh, that's not bad. I don't know what the flavor in Dr. Pepper is, but there's like a very small amount of that in there. It's hard to tell. It actually honestly kind of improves it a bit, if I could say so. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Next, we'll go to the IPA infused apple, which, oh. It tastes like an IPA apple. I feel like I'm at a oh, the aftertaste is even weirder. It's like a bitter IPA. I feel like I'm at a bachelor party and they just gave us this nasty snack at the brewery or something. That's gross. It's weird. It tastes exactly like an IPA. The apple flavor is actually kind of gone. Just kind of the very, very hoppy kind of taste. Next, as the great philosopher Bob Marley once said, red wine. It has all the complexities of red wine and all the flavor, but that's weird. I don't like that. It's like tasting solid wine. Yeah, I mean it was cheap wine to begin with, but it doesn't help that it's infused in an apple. I don't like that one. Next, we have our coconut almond milk. Oh, that one actually infused really well. It's kind of falling apart in my mouth. I don't know why that is. Probably because that milk is amphiphilic, and so maybe it's just like really penetrating into the actual dried cells of the apple. That's really weird. In general, it kind of tastes like coconut almond milk. I mean, it doesn't taste bad. The apple flavor is kind of gone. It's just a husk of what it once was, I guess. If someone likes coconut almond milk, I would definitely recommend that. It's not terrible. It's not my favorite though. And lastly, this is the one flavor that I can actually smell through the whole plate. All of them are dominated by this, the soy sauce apple, and it looks like leather. It does not look appetizing. Oh. Oh. It's so salty. Oh my goodness. Oh. If you've ever had if you've ever had like a preserved fish, it's kind of the same consistency. It's just chewy like a fish, but it's like super salty. Oh, that's gross. That's so bad. That's really bad. It's just, I mean, it's like you're licking, it's like you're just drinking soy sauce. That's gross. That's nasty. But I did it, and that's what matters. Now with the taste of soy sauce residing in my mouth, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched. Thank you to my grandmother for making me all those dehydrated apples so that I could mutilate them in the name of science. If you're inspired by my video, feel free to try this at home. It really doesn't take that much effort. You could probably just do this in a pan if you really wanted to. And if you have any dehydrated foods, that could be of interest. If you have any other ideas for me to try in this kind of same vein of video, let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do about that. So until next time, I'll see you. Thanks. Now I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with all of these, since I really don't want to eat them myself. Those are just nasty. These are going in the trash, that's for sure.